During prenatal development, the brain increases about 6 times in size by developing billions of new neurons. At about 22 days after conception, the embryo develops a neural tube which will form the brain and spinal cord. By 25 days, we can start to see the structures of a basic central nervous system forming. At approximately 50 days, the embryo's brain hemispheres have formed and the neural tube has closed. When the fetus reaches about 100 days, the brain is recognizably human. When the fetus reaches 28 weeks, the brain is a quarter of the size of the adult brain. Between 28 weeks and birth, brain weight will increase about 500%. By birth, which typically occurs at 38 weeks, the brain has developed about 100 billion neurons. At 2 years old, the brain is around 75 to 80% of the size of the adult brain. At 5 years old, the brain has grown to approximately 90% of the size of the typical adult brain. The prefrontal cortex is developing, and this is leading to more control over emotions and impulses. By 10 years of age, brain maturation results in better self control, improved attention, and more automatic thinking for well practiced behaviors and skills like reading. At 15 years of age, the limbic system matures more quickly than the prefrontal cortex, resulting in a tendency to be ruled by emotions. Brain development, particularly in the prefrontal cortex, continues until approximately age 25. Development of the prefrontal cortex leads to improvement in areas such as practical decision making and logical complex thinking. During later adulthood, loss of neurons and their connections results in brain atrophy, which slows reaction times and impairs some cognitive functions like memory and learning. Now, let's explore the underlying processes that allow our brain to grow and develop after conception. It's important to note that the brain develops in stages or waves rather than at a steady pace. At the height of one of these waves, the brain goes through a period of explosive neuron development. As an example, during the later stages of embryo development, new neurons are formed at an amazing rate of 250,000 per minute. However, at this stage, many neurons have not yet matured and are poorly connected. These new neurons arise from stem cells in a process known as neurogenesis. Once formed, immature neurons migrate from their birthplace to where they will ultimately reside in the nervous system. Neurons begin to rapidly form connections, or synapses, immediately after birth, and this continues throughout life. Connections are influenced by experiences. Repetition of actions and stimuli helps to strengthen connections and make them more permanent. Pruning of excess connections also begins in infancy and continues throughout childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. Connections that are weak due to infrequent use are lost. By the age of 18, the number of connections has been reduced to around 100 trillion, the same number that an 8-month-old has, but these connections are much stronger and more useful. As it matures, the brain also becomes more efficient at processing information. Through a process known as myelination, the myelin sheath surrounding the axon of each neuron develops and becomes thicker. This insulates the axon and enables the neuron to carry signals more quickly and efficiently.